Well, welcome to another episode of Exit Realty Radio. I am your host, Billy Jack, franchise owner and designated supervisor here at Exit Realty Central in El Paso, Texas. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about inspection nightmares. Now, this is not going to be something about, convincing your customer to get an inspection or anything like that. This is more going to be of how to deal with these inspection reports and the information they contain and how to educate your customer. And if you have the listing agent, the seller, of course, they tend to be the ones that get very upset sometimes when the inspection report is very exhaustive and has just an overwhelming amount of information in it. So, main priority thing that you should do before you get a home inspection done on a contract that you have pending is to educate the buyer on what the inspection is and what it's probably going to reveal and all the different kind of information that it's going to have in it. For example, different inspectors put different stuff. You might get a report that's, the size of the Encyclopedia Britannica, and it has all kinds of information in there, and it's got, code violations and, future predictions sometimes, and it could just be very overwhelming. And a lot of times if they'll be well over 100 pages and just scares the buyer, and it just makes the job just more difficult when you have to decipher all this and explain to them and just try to save your deal. So different reports are going to have different things. I've seen a lot of reports that they quote code violations here and there and everything. And, you have a house that was built during World War I or so, for example, and you can't expect it to be up to modern code, So, and state law, it says this is not a code inspection, both here in Texas and in New Mexico, pretty much all over the country. They all say the same thing. However, the standards of practice and the licensing law that governs the inspectors, they don't prohibit the inspector from putting extra stuff in there. They can put whatever they want above and beyond. They can say in 50 years this is not going to be working anymore, and it can be pretty upsetting, but nothing says that they can't do it. So this is something that the buyer needs to be aware of, and knowing that there might be a lot of pretty much irrelevant information that goes into the report. And another thing is with the licensing in effect is a lot of these inspectors, they get very worried about complaints or things like that. So they want to put all kinds of information in there. And of course, some of them strive on it. They pride themselves on finding hundreds of defects in every single house. Every house has to have something is some of their mentalities. For example, there was one particular agent that I do work closely with, and she told me that she had a very high-end house, close to $1 million or so, if I remember correctly, and it was in excellent shape. Nothing visibly wrong with it. It looked incredible. And the inspector that went, he told her straight up, well, I have to find something to justify my job. It's quite upsetting to hear something like that. If there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong, and it should be left at that. You can still make a detailed report and not put that. But anyways, aside from the fact is when the buyers see something like this, a very excessive report, they're going to freak out and stuff. And so just giving them a heads up on what to expect, it can really save you a lot of trouble on it. So when you receive a big fully detailed report like this, and you're going over it with your buyer, or you're explaining it to them, and you see items that are very kind of scary looking or something, and a lot of times also the inspector doesn't really know, like if they're not confident in their own knowledge and they don't really know, and they see something that might look a little iffy. For example, I had a long time ago, many years ago, I had one that the inspector put that an outlet had a burn mark on it. And sometimes they arc when you plug something in there. Different things can cause a little bit of a burn mark on the outlet. Well, the inspector said, you're going to have to rewire the whole house because all the wiring might be damaged. And which, of course, to me, that sounds very excessive. But I cannot tell him, hey, heads up, go back and change that, because that's not appropriate. And you doing that, it can get you in trouble with your own licensing as well. In New Mexico, I'm not sure how they have their licensing set up with the brokers, but in Texas, they recently just passed a new law that if anybody influences an inspector, an agent, of course, a salesperson or a broker, tries to influence an inspector or bullies him in any kind of way, he's encouraged to report you to the state so the state can discipline you. So do be very careful in taking an action like that. So in this case, with the burned outlet thing, you can calm the buyer and say, hey, you know what? Let's get an electrician. The electrician can go over there and see it. And most likely, almost assuredly, he's going to say it's just the outlet, something arced. There's still good power on it, etc. So there's always, remedies to it. Don't just go exactly what it says on there. You can get contractors in there or a specialist in there. And I mean, unfortunately, it can cost some money. They charge to go out there and have a look and give you their opinions, but it's a way to save the deal. So now on writing your repair requests in Texas, it's on the amendment, and in New Mexico, it would be for your ORWs. So on the repair request, when you have an item like that, the outlet is this or that, or, the inspector says something about the roof, the roof is all destroyed, or it needs, sometimes they'll say further evaluated, or language like that. You just put on there, seller to have roofing system inspected and repaired as needed by a professional roofing contractor. Or for the electrical issue, outlet to be evaluated by a licensed electrician and blah, 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 provide invoice. You see, so that would put the burden on the contractor that gets sent, right? So they'll go out there and they say, oh, no problem. They'll put it on their invoice, say $50 to replace the outlet, or, maybe $150 with the labor and everything to replace an outlet. And no problem. They put their name on it. They put their license number. It's all fixed. You didn't have to replace all the wiring. Same thing with the roofing issue. If a roofer goes and says, you know what, yeah, the sections of the roof is a little bit bad, but it's savable. I can seal it. In New Mexico, there's a lot of flat roofs that can be easily just patched and sealed. And even shingles, we can just replace sections of it here, and it's still serviceable, and they'll still give us some type of warranty. And that might still be acceptable. You see, so you don't have to just jump right away and the buyer's going to say, well, it needs a whole new roof, or it needs an entire new wiring, or things like that, So there's avenues to ease it. But the key point is to make sure that you have it worded properly in your amendment, in your ORWs, is say, have it evaluated and repaired by a contractor and provide the invoice so you can see the kind of work that they did. And you have their company name on there, and your customer can be assured that, hey, it was fixed. Okay, it really didn't need entire replacement, or it's really not as bad as the initial inspection report showed. And of course, if the report shows something like the water heater's all rusted up, or a broken window here or something like that, then of course you just put seller to replace the window, or seller to replace the water heater if it's very obvious that it's destroyed. Dishwasher's not working, well, hey, you know what, seller to fix the dishwasher, fix or replace the dishwasher. So it really doesn't have to be much of a nightmare after all. Hopefully that you can you put it at ease, and by using these kind of avenues, of course, agents have been doing this for a very long time. They already have their methods of how they talk to people, and hey, that's great. Everybody's different. That's the benefit of being your own company per se. So I hope this helped you. If you all have any questions, of course, that I do inspections in New Mexico. I am state licensed there. I used to do inspections in Texas for many years. And I would always be very willing to help you how to interpret some of these reports and assist you in writing your ORWs or your repair amendments. Right? So that's it for today, folks. Thank you very much for listening. I wish you all the best. I am your host, Billy Jack.